Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Kimmel and Cox, your source for all things entertainment. I'm Keith Cox, and I'm joined, as I am every week, by my good friend, Dylan Kimmel.
Ricky Baker. Ricky Baker.
Ricky Baker. We are talking, of course, about a little film today called Hunt for the Wilderpeople.
Hunt for the Wilderpeople.
Yes. Which, on hearing that, at first it sounds like it's going to be a movie about mythical creatures who live in the woods or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's not like that at all.
No, it isn't. It is not like that at all. And I just realized that I forgot something in my notes here. It's based off a book.
Okay. Yeah, I did not know that.
And I've forgotten the title of it. I'll... if for those people watching, I'll just put it on
we can amend that and put
yeah.
it in the notes for the episode.
Maybe for the actual audio podcast, I'll just have it be like a little clip and everyone will be like, "Oh, that's random."
But yeah, it's pretty entertaining film. You know, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. It's very funny, honestly. I really enjoy it too. It's got a lot of heart. Mm-hmm. It's a very heartfelt movie, which is, honestly, we've not done a heartfelt movie in a long while here.
No, we tend to get into either comedy or dark comedy or action, or suspense, drama. You know, we kind of get into a little bit of the heavier things sometimes.
This is probably the most lighthearted one because it's not like a dark comedy and it's not like a comedy like a spoof.
Yeah, and it's a family friendly movie too. You know, it's a clean movie. It's not like really, like raunchy or anything like that. So it's a movie that pretty much the whole family can watch, which is always good. But
and there's some good lessons in there too. Mm-hmm. Coming of age story, all that good stuff.
We always like to see characters growing and changing throughout the course of a movie, and there's definitely a lot of that going on in this. So.
Well, The Hunt for the Wilderpeople was released January 22nd, 2016 at Sundance Film Festival.
Okay, yeah.
And it is written and directed by Taika Waititi, who most people will know as the writer and director of Thor Ragnarok and Thor Love and Thunder.
Ah, yes.
Mm-hmm. Some good... the first Thor movie he did was really good. That second one was kind of...
Yeah, Love and Thunder was...
Yeah. But I mean, I did still enjoy it, but anyways, it also stars Sam Neill as Hector Faulkner, Julian Dennison as Ricky Baker. I might be butchering her name here. Rima T. Wayada as Bella Faulkner.
Yeah, I hadn't seen her in anything prior to this. So
I hadn't either. Rachel House as Paula Hall, what do you call it?
It's like the child services director.
Yes. Yeah. And Reese Darby as Psycho Sam,
which is hilarious in this movie.
Yes, and I have seen him in a few things. You probably see him in a few things too.
Most recently, I think most of you would probably recognize him from the Jumanji reboot movies. And he was pretty good in that too, in the few little scenes that he was in. Yeah, he's very funny actor.
Very funny. Also was in a movie with Jim Carrey, Yes Man.
Oh, right, yep.
And before that, he also was in a little TV show called Flight of the Conchords.
Had not seen that. Heard of it, but I haven't seen
it. It's really hilarious. It's a little band, little folk band, comical folk band. But anyways, to this movie, actually, that's probably how he met Taika Waititi. Well, not to mention that they're from New Zealand, so yeah. And actually, there's a huge cast here of New Zealanders now, honestly, because it's a New Zealand-based movie. And, well, I mean, how'd you feel about this movie? Like, when you were first watching it, like, what were your expectations going into it?
I guess I didn't really have any expectations because I had not actually had not even heard of the movie prior to your suggesting that we cover it on the podcast. And so, but then when I saw some of the cast, I was like, okay, this is probably going to be a pretty good movie because Sam Neill is great. And it started out like it was funny right from the beginning, because when Child Services drops Ricky off at his new home, there's already some comedy right away because Bella comes out to greet him, and the head of Child Services is explaining Ricky's background and that he's gotten himself into all kinds of trouble, and so they're trying to place him with a good family. And Bella immediately, she's kind of hard on him. Like, she gives him a lot of crap, about his weight and everything, because he's overweight, for a kid. And so she's cracking jokes about him, whatever. It's like, she's like, are you hungry? Of course you are. Look at you, and then she just starts cackling, and I'm like, wow, that's really harsh, But right away you can see that she develops an attachment and has compassion for Ricky, and tries to make him comfortable and tries to make him feel special, and her husband Hector.
He doesn't want any of it.
Which is Sam Neill's character. Yeah. He's a very macho, manly man, rugged sort of guy. He hunts for all of their food.
He comes in there with what is it? It was
a boar, wasn't it?
I think it was a boar. Yeah.
Like a wild boar. He slung over his shoulder. That's our first image of him. He's walking over the hill with this boar slung over his shoulder. Okay, well, this guy's really tough, and you kind of get the sense from the beginning that's where the heart of the story is going to come from, because Ricky is going to have to win him over because he's such a hard ass. He really doesn't want to have anything to do with Ricky.
It does happen, but it probably didn't happen the way you expected it to, did it?
No, not at all. I thought that Bella and her affection for Ricky would sort of win over her husband, and it didn't quite happen that way at all. It's
this is one of my many attributes I love. This is, I forgot how I was going to word it. It went right out the window.
That's all right.
Expectations, subvert expectations.
We always talk about that. It's great when a movie subverts your expectations, and so basically, what ends up happening is probably about maybe midway through the movie, maybe a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I think it was 20 minutes in, maybe.
The unexpected twist happens when Bella dies. And so you're like, oh, holy crap. You thought she was going to be a relevant character throughout the whole movie, but then you realize this needed to happen because her passing forced Hector and Ricky they had to survive on their own, and so they had to become close to each other. And
in an interesting way, they both kind of try and run away from home because the hardship of all that and everything like that. I'd say Ricky Baker was... not happy. He ended up being not happy because now he's going to be stuck with Hector, so he's going to try and run away, and even burns down the barns. They're going to expect this little stuffed thing to be me. Yeah, because there's no.
He makes a dummy of himself and puts it in the barn and sets fire to it.
He doesn't even think about DNA or nothing like that, does he?
No, But then the whole barn goes up in flames, and so he kind of screws himself there.
Yeah.
But he and Hector end up basically, kind of living out in the wilderness and surviving, living off the land and hunting. And
at one point, he ends up breaking his leg, and
Hector breaks his leg. He falls and breaks his leg. And Ricky kind of has to help sort of, nurse him, back to health, and that
leads to a very
leads to
funny
a very
scene,
funny scene
yeah.
later because Child Services end up looking for Ricky. They send out this search party, this manhunt, and I guess they think that Hector has kidnapped him or something, and so there's a really hilarious scene later on when these hunters find them, and because they find this cabin or whatever out in the middle of the woods, and they're staying there, and these hunters come up on them, and then they start talking to Ricky, and Ricky's explaining everything that they've been through, and he's like yeah, he said Hector broke his leg, and he made me do things for him.
What sort of things?
And he's like it was really hard at first, but I got used to it.
I mean, it was so difficult because my hands were so soft and everything.
And I would often ask him if he would like to play with me, but he would tell me that I should play with myself. And so it just keeps getting worse. Like he's not realizing what he's saying, and that everything that he's saying sounds sexual. And so suddenly they're looking at Hector like he's some kind of a sexual predator or a pedophile or something like that. And he just the more that Ricky opens his mouth, it just makes the situation worse.
Just shut up. Yes, and the boy can't read all that well either, because there's the wanted poster there, and he's like, okay, so it says here that you're Caucasian. Well, they got that wrong,
right? You're because you're white. Yeah.
Caucasian.
But Hector, we find out that Hector can't read.
Oh,
yes. He can't read.
No. That's Ricky Baker can read, but
Hector actually can't read at all.
Yeah, he can't read at all.
So yeah, just even simple things like later on we find that out when because Hector has a dog named Zag, who ends up dying later in the film, gets killed by a huge wild boar, and they bury him, and Ricky writes his name on some rocks, and then Hector asks him, he's like, "What's that say?" And he says, "Zag," and he's like, "Oh, well, that's perfect then." It's like he didn't even know what it said. But yeah, there was a lot of heartwarming moments throughout the film as you see their relationship change, and Hector comes to respect Ricky even though he's a kid, because Ricky actually learns, he becomes actually really good with a gun. Like he's almost like a sharpshooter, and he starts out with target practice, shooting at bottles and things, but he gets really good and he becomes an accomplished hunter. And so maybe Hector sees a little bit of himself in Ricky, and so they kind of bond, in that way. But
he does have Ricky tends to be have this idea of wanting to be a gangster.
Yeah. And Hector continuously tells him, he's like, "You're not a gangster," And it's just.
What was it? There's a car chase at the end of the movie. He's like, "Yeah, we're so gangster now." It was like,
great car chase. By the way, too. A lot of, again, you'll hear me say it over and over again. But not only do I love a good car chase, but if they do everything practically. That wins me over. And there was no CGI. There were stunts. I love the bit where there's like a farmer or something that's like walking along the road or standing like in the middle of the road or something, and then there's a shot like behind him where they jump the truck like over the road or whatever. Just goes goes flying behind.
It was very Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah, it was kind of a Dukes of Hazzard sort of moment there. And there's like there's one of the bad guys that's like chasing him or whatever, like flips their van, and so there's some stunts and everything in there that was pretty good. So I enjoyed that.
I mean, they get that vehicle from, it was Psycho Sam, wasn't it? That they got that vehicle from.
Yeah.
Psycho Sam is Well, he is kind of psycho, isn't he? Yeah.
Psycho Sam is this guy that just sort of wanders around in the woods, and you know he's not all there.
He's like a conspiracy theorist type of guy,
survivalist, I guess. But he's a shitty survivalist because he doesn't have any of the things that he says he has an underground bunker, and then he opens it up and he's like, oh, I haven't dug it yet.
I haven't dug it yet.
He doesn't have any supplies or anything that would, and he's one of those people that believes that if you wear like those, he's had kind of one of those like colander things, the like metal colanders or whatever. He's like, here, put these on your head. It'll block the government from being able to track you. Like he's one of those kind of extremists. But I love that character so much. That's a hilarious character. And it did not quite end probably the way you expected it either. It didn't begin the way you thought it was going to go, and didn't end the way you thought it was going to go either, did it? No, not really.
Because you probably, like me, you probably thought, well, he's going to be with Hector and Ricky. They're going to be together and
forever.
Yeah. No,
it's not the way it worked out. Ricky ends up
adopted by that.
Yeah, because he finds a girl. Like he goes to get let me back up a little bit. Hector and Ricky stumble upon this guy in his cabin who's dying, and so Ricky goes for help. And then when he goes for help, he finds this girl that's around his age that's riding a horse, and she takes him back to her home. She lives there with her dad. He's a single dad, and she invites him in and feeds him, and they kind of make him feel welcome. At this point,
he knows that he's famous now because the news and everything like that.
The dad wants to take a selfie with him. He's like, "Oh, you're Ricky Baker," and he gets all excited about it because he's been in the news because everybody thinks that Ricky is missing, that he's been kidnapped or whatever. So anyway, it's like at the end of the film, that family ends up adopting Ricky. So that was totally like out of left field,
Yeah. It's kind of melancholy in a way because I mean he does end up visiting Hector by the end of the movie. Hector's like in a retirement home. Is that where he's at? Or
I think that's where he went to. So.
And he's over there. He's starting to learn how to read a book.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And
so it's like it's good, but it's a little bit sad too, in a way that those two didn't end up together. But I guess it was one of those things where they needed each other for that time in their life.
I'd say It's like we said, subvert expectations there. I think a lot of people would have expected that, and it didn't do it that way. And honestly, I'd say that's more close to reality, too. I'd say it would play out more so like that.
Well, I guess you can't say that it's not a happily ever after kind of ending, because, Ricky does end up with a good family, just not the family that he thought he was going to be with.
Yeah.
But I think that's just the way that it kind of worked out better for both of them that way. But yeah.
Well, that's the movie, honestly. That is the entirety of the movie, because there is some really hilarious moments there, and I cannot pick and choose which moments were like the funniest moments. Yeah. I really love the hunter scene. That was hilarious to me. I remember laughing hysterically when that came up.
The way that it's shot too, like you can tell that because of the nature of the comedy and the way that everything is filmed, it definitely has that same sort of vibe as we mentioned Thor Ragnarok, because it was the same same writer. So
you can definitely sense his humor there.
Same sense of humor in this movie, but it's really good. There's there's not a whole lot to really, I guess, to dive deeply into there. That's pretty much the crux of the movie there.
Yeah. As an actor, what role would you take? I mean, I guess there isn't really too many roles in this one, but is there a role that you're like, I would love to play that part? Regardless of age, obviously.
Right.
But
I could see myself. I think it would have been hilarious to play Psycho Sam.
Psycho Sam, yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't really see myself as Sam Neill's character Hector, at least not at this stage in my life. Maybe when I'm that age, like I could see myself playing sort of a grizzled, tough, kind of character. But yeah, I think Psycho Sam would have been the most fun to play.
Oh, a little bit of trivia. I don't know if anyone knows this, but Happy Birthday song is actually copyrighted. So in the movie, they make a little tune. And that's exactly what I did at the beginning there of the episode. Yeah, that's what we were
joking about in the beginning. The whole little thing. It's like Bella, makes up this little
once rejected, now accepted.
Makes up this little song for Ricky to celebrate his birthday. The three of them are sitting there, and he's got his birthday cake, and she's got her little tiny piano, and she can't really play very good, but she's just kind of hitting the keys, just like boop 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 boop. Ricky Baker, boop 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 boop. Ricky Baker, boop boop, and it's like, and at first, and Hector's just sitting there the whole time, just like rolling his eyes and like, oh my gosh,
who did I marry?
And at first, Ricky doesn't even quite like the song himself because of the line about once rejected, and he kind of looks at her like, like what? But then he gets into it and he starts singing along with her. It's kind of it's like a cute little funny moment there. But yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that the Happy Birthday song was actually copyrighted.
So anyone who's actually singing Happy Birthday today, you're gonna get sued. Mm-hmm. So
don't record that. Don't put it. Yeah, don't put it. If you're gonna do it, don't make it.
Well, watch me sing Happy Birthday. You'll see that we got a copyright flag because we end up singing Happy Birthday.
I wonder who it was that actually wrote that simple little song.
Yeah, it's so funny that's copyrighted. Yeah. I just find that fact so fascinating. It's just
the simplest little thing, and people have been singing it for years and years. It's
and yet it made like one of the most hilarious scenes in this movie too, because they couldn't get the rights to actually sing Happy Birthday.
Crazy.
But as a writer director myself, I don't know what I would do with this movie, honestly. I mean, it's got Taika Waititi's handprints all over it. And like we mentioned, it's based off a book. And from what I read, the book, like the first few drafts, like Taika Waititi started writing this back in 2006.
Oh, wow. So 10 years from the time.
10 years. And it took him 10 years to make it. And the first draft, from what I read, was far closer to the book. But as the book, as he got further along, he ended up just making his own spin on the same plot and everything like that. So very loosely based off of the book, which I find that Taika Waititi is kind of like that, honestly, because he made another movie called Jojo Rabbit, which is also based off a book that he did not finish. He didn't finish the book. And from what I read, the book is a lot more serious in tone, where Taika Waititi will find hilarity and just to ease up the tension.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is, but I guess I love movies that do that because they're saying something important, but also making you laugh too at the same time. And I find that those have the more impact. I find that they're more memorable because you're going back into your memory banks and you're thinking, well, this is what I took away from that movie. And I really felt for these characters here and here and here. You feel for the characters when you're laughing with them.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that we were talking about the script process. That is the big difference between independent filmmaking and making like a studio film is just the process that you go through.
Yes.
Because like with us, I feel like, we can we can crank out a script and within a few months we're already shooting it, but when you start dealing with like Hollywood and big studio films, it's amazing to me the development process and how sometimes that can happen where you'll have a script that's sitting around and it doesn't actually come to fruition until many years later because you have to shop it around to different people
and I'd have to maybe some people might be a little bit confused here. This is labeled an independent movie, but it's not an independent movie. It's an indie Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
So there is a huge difference there.
Probably still considered low budget by Hollywood standards, but it's still a Hollywood. But there's production. There's still
a big production money there that me and you cannot afford.
Right, exactly.
We cannot do that, Chase.
No.
As much as we'd like to.
I would love to do that. I would love to do a movie.
We'll just get a few cars. And hopefully people will have insurance because they're going to be wrecked.
Yeah.
And it might bump up the insurance money a little bit there too. So I don't know that we'd be able to do that.
Yeah, we just start slow. Start small.
And I would say if I were to act in this movie, I would also try and do the Psycho Sam. I like Psycho Sam too. But then again, I don't know. I feel like I'd want to play Ricky Baker if I were younger.
Yeah. That would be fun too. Yeah. If I was that age, but
honestly, I feel like Psycho Sam is like the whole most hilarious character in that.
Very often those characters that they're not one of the main characters. They're just like a supporting character, maybe only in a few scenes, but they end up stealing
the movie. Yeah. Well, I don't know what else to say about this movie. Do you?
I think that's pretty much gonna wrap it up for this one. So you can check out Hunt for the Wilderpeople. I know you can stream it on Netflix and Prime Video, and there's a bunch of other places. But
you could probably find it on almost every streaming.
But it's free. Free on Netflix. So that probably would be the best place to catch it. Before we go, as always, we just want to remind everybody to subscribe, like, and share to our YouTube channel because that's going to help us out tremendously. And you can also check us out on our socials. We're on all of the major social media platforms, and it's a good way for you to get in on the conversation too. Be sure to leave your comments, questions. If there's anything in particular that you would like to hear us talk about on the podcast, then reach out to us. Let us know what you think of this episode. Let us know what you think of the podcast in general. We want to hear from you.
Give us some feedback. Yeah,
absolutely, good or bad. We really don't. We just any feedback is good.
Critique this.
And if there's things you feel like that we can improve on, like hey, I think it would be really great if you guys did this, or have you ever considered doing this? And we're open to suggestions because this is still new for us. I mean, we're nearing the end of our first season already. It's hard to believe it's already gone by this fast. We only have a few episodes. I think we only have like 5 episodes left.
I feel like we've improved a little bit here and there, but there's always room for improvement.
Yeah. So definitely, let us know what we can do there, what you guys would like to see, and you can also reach out to us on our official podcast email, kimmelandcox@gmail.com.
And also, please be sure to check out our Patreon page.
Absolutely, yeah, lots of cool stuff on there. That's a way that you can get involved and actually contribute to the podcast, and can help us out with things like production costs, and hopefully by season 2 we hope to have at least a semi-permanent recording space, because for those who don't know, up to this point we have been recording at the Lexington Public Library. Most of them have been here at the downtown branch. There was a couple of others that we did, I think, at the east side branch, but it's just easier that way because the space is free to use. as opposed to having to rent a space or whatever. And so it's just more economical for us. And it's a pretty good location, but we want to have something that is just our space where we
probably
can
a little bit more controlled and everything, because of course we do get some background noise here. There's sirens going, and I'm sure that's distracting a little bit.
And we just want to be able to deck the place out with things that really
speak
tell,
to us.
Tell people what we're about.
Yeah.
Like, when you see it, they'll be like, okay, I know, I can identify with these guys. I know what they're into, and again, it's about control, because doing it this way, we have to set up our equipment each and every time we come in. So if you notice that, like, the camera angles and stuff like that are not consistent from week to week, that's because we're literally having to set everything up from scratch each week.
There's been a few angles where I'm like, that's perfect. If I could just get it that way again.
Every single time. And so if we have a permanent location, we can do that, because we can just leave all the equipment where it is and literally just walk in and hit record and go, and we won't have to move anything, won't have to adjust lighting and cameras. So anyway, that's what we're heading towards, and certainly you all can play a big part in that. And so be sure to go on our Patreon page and check that out. Take a look at some of the perks that we're offering there.
There's some great perks, great perks.
And see if anything jumps out at you. Every little bit helps. So don't feel like just because maybe you can't give as much as you would like to, it's still going to be helpful, and everything that you donate goes right towards the podcast. So
yes.
Now next week, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for next week. You have no idea how much I have been looking forward to talking about this beloved movie franchise.
This is one of your highest,
I would say
top 5, top 3.
Definitely top 5. I would actually put it probably. I group, when you talk about franchise movies, I group all of them together. So if it's a franchise, then So if you're talking about top 10, I would say this is probably number 2 for me. This is probably number 2 in my favorite movies of all time. But we are, of course, referring to Back to the Future. Yes, it's coming.
Yes,
it's coming.
I love this movie. Love it.
Oh man, this is one of those movies that I'm not going to need any notes for at all, because
know it like the back of your hand.
I do, and not only do I know the movies and the lines, but just all the behind the scenes information, the history and everything.
Don't need a research.
No research needed for that. So we really can't wait to dig into those movies. So be sure to join us here next week for the first film in the Back to the Future franchise, and we can't wait. But anyway, that's all we've got for today, and we look forward to seeing you next time around. But until then, as always, be good to yourselves, and we'll catch you here next week.
You dipstick.